And now we're going into sudden death overtime. This is for the World Championship. Number one offense in there. Gary Gait looking for it. Gary Gait to win.
You're looking at the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island in New York. This is the home field of the New York Saints of the Major Indoor Lacrosse League. Hi, everybody. I'm Leif Elsmo. This is Christy Lee and Quentin Kessenich. We're the regular broadcast team that'll bring you Major Indoor Lacrosse. And tonight, we're previewing the '96 season.
I'll tell you what, it seems like yesterday, guys, we were reliving the drama of probably what was the best championship game so far in Mill history. Who could forget the now famous goal by Gary Gait in overtime to beat Rochester and his own brother, Paul Gait?
It was absolutely dramatic.
I'll tell you, I don't think it could get much better than this, can it?
It might. You never know. The league has added a new team, the Charlotte Cobras, and they hope to duplicate the success that Rochester had last year in their first season. They made it to the finals. The league has also increased the schedule from 8 regular season games to 10, which should really put a premium on depth, and the teams really that have a deep bench should benefit. The playoffs stay the same, however, with the top 4 teams making it into postseason play.
Well, Quentin, Christie, this is also a marquee year for the Major Indoor Lacrosse League. I am proud to be joining them in our 10-year anniversary of these broadcasts and the league. When we started 10 years ago, we only had 4 teams: the Baltimore Thunder, the New York Saints, the Philadelphia Wings, and the now-defunct Washington Wave. The league has grown so much since then, and this year, without question, the highest level of ability that I've ever seen.
Well, I tell you what, guys, you know, the teams may have changed, but one thing has remained constant, and those are the keys to success. Quint, you being a first-team All-American goalie from Johns Hopkins University, I'm sure you have your own recipe for success.
Well, it comes down to defense, and you talk about the old cliche, defense wins championships, and in the Mill, that is very true, especially with all the offensive firepower across the league. So that's why I think solid goaltending is the #1 key. Even with all the great scores that Philadelphia had last season, they would not have won the championship without goalie Dallas Elliott. Secondly, the superstar factor. No one person makes a team, but you can come very close. Look no further than the Gait brothers, Paul for Rochester and Gary in Philadelphia. Third, the role players, the muckers and grinders, the guys who sacrifice their bodies for every loose ball. Fourth, specialty teams, the power play and short unit. Capitalizing on other opponents' mistakes can make or break your team. Number 5, conditioning and injuries. True in any sport, if a key player goes down, it could be devastating. And finally, coaching. You know, it may seem odd that this is last on the list. A coach's primary function in the Indoor Lacrosse League is to keep his players motivated, to keep them intense, and to keep them organized on the bench because things can get crazy.
And we know that for a fact because our announce positions are actually on the bench during the game. Unlike any other sport, we bring you the action while it is happening. And how many times have we seen coaches make the right decision and put the right guy on the field at the right time? Bench management critical.
Well, we'll see what team has the keys for success in '96. Don't go away. When we come back, Christy Lee will have a close look at the defending champions, the Philadelphia Wings.
One last rush for New York. There it is. Driscoll. He's in. He shoots. It's saved. It's over. The Wings have won the Major Indoor Lacrosse League Championship.
That was the first of 4 world championships for the Philadelphia Wings, more than anybody in the Mill. You know, there's some folks out there who think the sports fans in Philadelphia are some of the toughest in the sports world to please. But try telling that to the Philadelphia Wings. Ever since their inception some 10 years ago, the Wings players have developed a real friendship with the city of brotherly love. Now, the big question going into last season, how would the Philadelphia Wings and Gary Gait do without Paul Gait, Gary's identical twin brother? Well, how does a championship and an MVP for Gary sound? What makes Gary Gait so good?
Just the fact that he's an unbelievable athlete.
He's an unbelievable motivator.
He's an unbelievably hard worker.
It's an honor and a privilege to play with Gary Gait.
He's basically a coach's dream.
Gary Gait's 30 goals and 48 points were tops in the league in both of those offensive categories in '95. And with a 10-game schedule, he's primed to shatter the Mill's all-time scoring record.
Tony, I know he kind of took it aside took me aside and said, look, you know, you got to step your game up a little. Paul's gone now. You know, we need some big goals out of you. We need you to play defense, offense, and, you know, kind of be a leader on the floor. And, you know, I took that as a personal challenge, and I wanted to prove to everybody that I could go out there and play the way that I think I can.
Gary Gait did walk away with the MVP trophy, but how far would the Wings have gone without first-team All-Pro Dallas Elliott? Dallas was first in the Mill in wins and second in save percentage. In fact, the Wings' only loss last year came in a game where Dallas pulled a groin muscle during warm-ups. He rarely gives up a cheap goal and is psychologically and physically prepared to play night in and night out.
I think just like in hockey, when you have a goaltender who comes every game and plays well and consistently, that's a great first step for a successful team, and we have that in Dallas Elliott. So I think defensively, he's the keystone. You know, Dallas is the best goalie in the league, I think, right now, but I think we put a little too much pressure on him last year, and I think as a group this year our goal is to play more consistently defensively. And, you know, he'll make the saves when he has to, but I don't want him to have to stand on his head, which he did at times last year.
The Wings can also count on big offensive numbers from Tom Hollywood Marichek. He was tied for 5th in the Mill with 17 goals, and many folks feel this could be his breakout year. For as long as you've played the game of lacrosse, you've always been like in the shadow of Gary Gait. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I don't feel that bad about it. You know, Gary and I played together since we're 13 years old. Sure, he gets the recognition. He's a great player. I can't take anything away from him. He's #1 player in the league. And it's a privilege to play with Gary. You know, people always ask the same question you just asked, and it's a privilege to play with Gary, and hopefully you might say the same about me.
The unsung hero of the Wings has to be Kevin Finneran. The quiet, self-reserved left assist man may not be as flashy as some players, but at the end of the game, Kevin is always among the scoring leaders. When the Wings lost Paul Gait, that left a void on the power play, and in stepped Johnny Nostrick, whose left-handed laser beam shot found rope 14 times last year. Also returning for the Wings is the Grunt Squad. These are the guys that Coach Resch said make the Wings a championship team. The 7-year veteran Chris Flynn led the team in faceoffs, plus had a good offensive season with 5 goals and 17 points. Steve the Manimal Govett led the league in penalties and penalty minutes. Not only can he hurt you with his punishing checks, but with an occasional goal as well. Captain Scott Gabrielson enters his 9th season and is among the leaders in loose balls and faceoffs. Coach Resch often matches Scott against the other team's top guns.
We have guys on our team that are willing to put our bodies on the line. We are the grinders, and we're proud of it. We're not going to add a lot of goals to the team, but we're going to get the ground balls. We're going to play defense when defense is needed, and we're going to do the little things that make our team work. You
know, that's what makes us successful. And those guys, when I talk about role players, it takes everybody, and it's like a puzzle. You got to fit the right people in the right places to make it happen. And those guys are the best at what they do, better than anybody in the league.
Well, when you get the ring on your finger at the end of the season, and you get that cup at the end of the season, that's the payoff. And, you know, it'd be nice to get the goals. It'd be nice to get a lot of stuff that they get, a lot of the recognition, but we're doing our job, and that's what we're there for. Every team has superstars, but not every team in this league has guys like Gabes and Flynn and all those guys, Volker, myself, that do the job that needs to be done in the trenches.
The Wings roster has stayed together for the most part. Gone, though, is veteran Gary Martin, who retired after last season. His leadership on and off the field will be missed. The Wings also lost Chris Bates to the Charlotte Cobras. Some new faces include #1 draft pick Peter Jacobs from Johns Hopkins University. Jacobs is big and strong and should adapt well to the indoor game. The Wings are coming off back-to-back championships and are trying to become the first team in Mill history to three-peat. Their record over the last 3 seasons is an outstanding 24-5, which includes 15 straight wins at home. The Wings also have the best home field advantage in the Mill. Sorry, Buffalo. And they hope to use that to their advantage because they've got a tough schedule in 1996. Stick around because when we come back, Leap is going to take a look at the Rochester Nighthawks, who, as you know by now, were just 1 goal away from winning it all last year.
Every time Gary's out on the floor, people have to spend extra time keeping an eye on him. He's always a threat when he's on the floor, and he proved it, you know, in that overtime period. All he did was come around get open up top, and as soon as he gets the ball, you know it's going towards the net, and more often than not, it's going in. And, you know, it's a tough thing to watch. I was sitting right there, but heck, at least it was him and not someone else.
You're looking at the New York Saints as they finish a scrimmage against the Baltimore Thunder. Hi, everybody. I'm Leif Elsmo. We're back to our preview. And the team that the New York Saints will go against in our first TV coverage of the Saints will be the Rochester Nighthawks. That's the team I want to talk about. Last year, they were an expansion team. They made it to the finals of the Major Indoor Lacrosse League, but coming into the season, there was a lot of question marks. One thing was for sure last year, though. They were building their offense around Paul Gait, a true superstar, an acquisition from the Philadelphia Wings. And it was the offense built around Paul Gait that would prove to be very successful. Riding the broad shoulders and sore back of Paul, the Rochester Nighthawks split the regular season with a 4-4 record and beat the Boston Blazers in the playoffs, setting up a meeting between Paul and Gary Gait in Philadelphia for the North American Cup. The Nighthawks were just one goal away from winning a championship in their first year of existence.
I naturally thought that we were destined to win that game the way we came back to tie it up, to throw it into overtime. And, you know, definitely was disheartened at the fact that, you know, we lost. But looking at the type of goal that was scored, you know, Gary picked the corner. You know, if anybody was to beat us, you know, you had Gary Gait pick the corner against you, and not too much can be said about that. You know, hats off to him.
Anytime when you're in an overtime situation, especially sudden death, and things don't go your way, you always wish you had it back. And there's some things that happen that if we could do it again, I'm sure it wouldn't happen. I think ourselves as a team, we went out there and they looked to me a little bit too much, and I was double teamed and held up. Instead of looking to go to the net, they were trying to, you know, put it on my shoulders, which isn't something you want in a team. I think if someone else had scored that winning goal, I think it would have hurt a lot more.
Like the Wings, the Nighthawks have the nucleus of their team returning, with high hopes that their superstar, Paul Gait, has recovered from a nagging lower back injury.
The back's healthy, it's sore at times, aching at times, but you're just going to have to live with that and go on and play.
One of the Nighthawks' biggest strengths is their size. 9 players weigh over 200 pounds, and over a 10-game season, their physical presence can be intimidating. Leading the pack of intimidators is 6'4", 225-pound Peter Park. The 6-year veteran was tied for third on the team with 10 goals. Chris Driscoll was tied for 6th in points last season for the Mill. He's a great assist man who had 20 during the regular season, plus 7 more in 2 playoff games. Chris is a candidate for All-Pro this year.
Chris is one of our finishers on the right-hand side, excellent shooter and a playmaker. We're just trying to get the ball in his hands more often, trying to get him to be more consistent with his shot selection. He'll get his anywhere from 6 to 10 shots per game. It's just a matter of finding the right ones and him putting the ball in the net.
Another player that really blossomed in the playoffs was Rex Lyons. Rex had a real productive year with 9 goals and 9 assists, but really turned it on in the playoffs with 5 more goals and 9 more assists. Rex has a knack for scoring in the clutch. The goaltending duties will once again be anchored by second-year All-Pro Steve Dietrich. Dietrich led all goalies in save percentage with 78.2 and saves per game with 40.3. At 5'9", 167 pounds, Dietrich appears more like a 5'4", 250-pounder. With his gear on, he looks like a stunt double for the Michelin Man. That part-time job will have to wait, because right now Dietrich's steady play and his wide frame make him one of the toughest goalies to score on.
I think all you have to do is look throughout the league, and if you look at the top 2 goalies, they ended up in the championship game, so that says something about goaltending. I think the better goaltending you have, you know, the further you're going to go.
A couple of veterans who hope to improve from last year are Tim Soudan and Brian Lemon. Now, Soudan, a former All-Pro, had a solid season, but he still needs to find rope more than 7 times. Lemon, he enters his 9th season. He scored only 4 goals in his limited role. He hopes that will increase this year. And Coach Powis may have pulled one of the best draft picks of the year with the selection of Roy Colsey from Syracuse. He should have an immediate impact with the offense of the team and could put them over the top. So the Nighthawks will undoubtedly be better the second time around with coach Barry Pallas and a team that's now seasoned 1 year in the Major Indoor Lacrosse League. Don't forget the acquisition of 2 key rookies, Mark Fietta, Roy Colsey. They played together at Syracuse. Roy Colsey, my pick for Rookie of the Year. He is one sensational athlete. He can run over you or around you, right or left-handed, and now he gives that team a combination that's deadly. Paul Gate, left-hander, and Colsey, right-hander, much like the Philadelphia Wings. When we come back, Quint Kesnick is going to take a look at the territorial rival for that Rochester Nighthawk team. It's the Buffalo Bandits with the Q in just a minute.
Anything short of the championship would be a losing season for myself and I'm sure everyone else in this club.
Darius Kilgore to Hamlin. 30 to go. To the back of the net. What a shot! Darius Kilgore bouncing it up. That's it.
The Buffalo Bandits looked like they had a dynasty going with back-to-back championships in 1992 and 1993. But somewhere along the ride, the wheels fell off. At one time, Buffalo was one of the most experienced teams in the league, but they've been losing players year after year. First, it was Kevin Alexander and Derek Keenan, and then they lost key role players like Brian Silcott and Tyson Elias. Now this season, 7 veterans are gone, replaced by 9 rookies. Buffalo fans say goodbye to 5-year veterans Bob the Hammer Hamlin, goalie Bill Geary, 4-year veterans John Rosa, Glenn Lay, Stu Aird, plus 3-year veteran Derek Laub and rookie bust Jamie Babbitt.
The way I see things this year, because we've made the changes that we have, it takes me almost back to our first season, basically. It may take us a little while to get used to playing a few players here, but I think once they get used to playing out here, that we'll still be a real good team.
Welcome first-team All-Pro Ted Dowling, who was acquired from the Boston Blazers during the offseason. Dowling's 24 goals was tied for second last season in the mill, and that was in only 7 games.
It's going to be harder now for teams just to cover one line. I think right now we're going to have 3 quality lines. It's going to be difficult for teams to just key on one line. Last year, I think we were one-dimensional with our first line, and he's going to add a lot to our team offensively.
Ted, I mean, he's going to add a whole different dimension to this team where people can't just watch one particular line. I mean, because, John and Ted probably won't play together. So if you can send 2 scoring lines out there and have a third line that can really hold their own, you've really done something. So Ted's going to bring, I believe, some real honesty to the rest of the teams in the league to having to play talent all the way down through our lineup.
I'll play my usual role, and I'll put the ball in the net and help out with the leadership. And other than that, I'm just adding to a team that's already stacked. Last year they had some trouble, but there's no reason why we can't go all the way this year.
The addition of Dowling gives the Bandits the most potent power play in the mill with John Tavares, Jim Veltman, and Troy Cordingley. 1994 League MVP John Tavares had MVP-type numbers again last season with 24 goals and 21 assists. Tavares, a first-team All-Pro player, is perhaps the most deadly shooter in the league. When he even gets the slightest opening, you can count on a goal. But no matter what his individual success, John still considered last season a failure.
I think we had a good quality team. I just think there was a lot of problems within the team itself, and the guys weren't focused when we were playing. There's just too much dissension on the team, and I mean, that always brings everybody down. We were going against a few obstacles there, and our record was evident. It was 3 and 5. It was a disappointing year.
I thought we were better than really what we displayed. It was a season of, some turmoil within. It's always fun to win, and it's not fun to lose. And so when you do start losing, everybody questions a lot of things within the organization, and it's really time to dig down deep then and have a look and see what is affecting the organization and make the changes that are necessary to try and bring that organization back to where you think it needs to be.
The Bandits almost lost another veteran. Jim Veltman moved to Vancouver during the offseason and was contemplating retirement. but after a change of heart, he's decided to commute from the West Coast for each game. The first team All-Pro lived up to his nickname of the human vacuum cleaner last year by gobbling up a league-leading 103 ground balls. Troy Cordingley enters his 5th season, and it seems that each season he's getting better and better. The multi-dimensional Cordingley had 17 goals during the regular season, but was 3rd in the mill in penalty minutes with 28. No preview of the Bandits would be complete without talking about the Kilgore brothers of Rich and Dallas. They both need to improve on sagging offensive output and decrease the penalty minutes. In fact, it was the Bandits' Achilles heel last season, amassing a league-leading total of 190 minutes in the box.
That's the penalties we want to cut back, is mouthing back, whining to the referees, getting on the ref's bad side. Just go out there and play a hard, physical game. Like I said, we're going to get our penalties. There's nothing we can do about it. Just when you do get a penalty, go to the box, forget about it, and just, you know, serve your time, and that's it. And don't go out and don't let it affect the rest of your game, which I think in the past has.
Ross Cowie returns for his 6th season in the mill. He shared time in the nets with Bill Geary, who has retired. So the Bandits filled the void with Pat O'Toole, who was unhappy with his backup role with the Saints. This could be the year that O'Toole wins the #1 job in goal, an area the Bandits need to improve upon after being a league worst in saves and save percentage last season.
The plans are this year, basically, we look right now to Patty being our #1 guy. Patty's got a long history of being a great Canadian goaltender, and you know, we're looking for him to come in here and play very well for us. Ross can provide the backup goaltending, and we've also kept a 3rd goaltender this year in Clint Jones, and who may or may not see action depending on our goaltending situation here.
The Bandits can return to championship form in 1996, but it's going to come down to the goaltending situation. Will it be Ross Cowie or Pat O'Toole? Also, the role players. You know, Tavares and Dowling can score, but who's going to get them the ball? And also team chemistry. It was horrible last year. Buffalo needs to gel into a cohesive team in 1996. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Boston Blazers, who have a new home in the Fleet Center.
Dowling is in, tries to pick and roll with Carmine. Carmine can win it. He's got it. It's all over.
The Boston Blazers looked as if they were running on all cylinders in '95. They were 5-1 heading into the final weekend of the regular season. And they were playing the struggling New York Saints back-to-back. Looked pretty good going into the playoffs, wouldn't you think? Wrong. Disaster struck. The Saints swept them, and they ended up getting beat in the playoffs by the Rochester Nighthawks. To make matters worse, their leading scorer, Ted Dowling, has now defected to the Bandits. Last year, Dowling scored 24 goals for the Blazers and became instant offense with his Dowling dash. He accounted for 26% of his team's goals. So what will Coach Ron Fraser do to make up for the loss of all that scoring?
Ted's going to be a big loss. Ted had about 30 goals for us last year. Some of the things he did bring to us was some leadership and obviously some scoring from the left side. We're looking for Tom Ryan, who will hopefully pick up some of that scoring. We're looking for Tom to pick up some scoring. And we did bring in a new right-handed shooter, Darren Fridge. So we're looking for those people to come back and fill in the gap.
One person probably can't fill his shoes, but hopefully a couple of us can step it up. One of my jobs last year was kind of set picks for him and get him the ball. And hopefully, you know, now I've learned from him and I can step it up and score a couple more goals.
Fraser did a masterful job of implementing the two-door offensive-defensive line strategy, which captured the tempo of the game. On the downside, his team lost its composure late in the season when it counted the most.
At the end of the season, we just got kind of sideways a little bit, and it certainly did hurt us, obviously, and it showed effects in the playoff, too. So we've got to be, our success will be to be more disciplined this year, be true to ourselves. That's what I always tell them. The things that got us there, we need to keep doing consistently each game, and if we can do that, we'll be successful.
Not all is gloom and doom in Beantown, though. Returning to the Blazers is Charlie Blanchard, who had 19 goals and 12 assists during the regular season, his best yet.
Offensively, I have to be able to contribute, be able to work in pick and roll, be able to see the field a little better, because I think they're going to be keying on myself because of the season I had last year. So I'm going to have to be able to find the open man when they double. But I have to be able to step up and take the role as leader and be able to get us to that next level.
The quarterback of the offense is Tom Carmine. He led the Mill in assists with 27 and has as quick of a first step as anybody in the indoor game. With Dowling gone, he'll have to improve on the 9 regular season goals from a year ago. Randy Frazier, Coach Ron's son, is among the most versatile players in the league. He had good offensive numbers with 15 goals and 27 points and was among the leaders on the Blazers in shots, loose balls, and face-offs. One number he'd like to see fall is a team-leading 31 penalty minutes.
My announcement at practice, first practice, I suggested that we were probably a senior team, talking about teams in college. We've got a lot of guys that are right at the cusp of taking the leadership role, and we expect them to do that this year, and Randy's one of them. We do expect big things from him.
And Randy Fraser's probably the most underrated player that's ever played at Mill. I mean, he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves, and he's a go-to guy and a fire plug for us.
The disposition of the Blazers is usually the mood that goaltender Marty O'Neill reflects. As O'Neill goes, the Blazers go. O'Neill is among the most despised players by opponents in the Mill. His gutty, scrappy, win-at-all-costs attitude is what makes him great at times, but it's also what hurts him, too. Look no farther than his 25 penalty minutes, unbelievably ranking him 4th in the Mill. Marty, though, is the kind of guy you hate to play against, but love to have on your team.
I think it's good to have somebody out there that's really emotional and get the team fired up.
He's a goalie. They're on their own wavelength, but he's definitely a key to our defense, especially when he gets hot. When he gets hot, we really start rolling. So as long as Marty can control his temper and keep the ball out of the net, we'll be all right.
Marty's spirit's with it. I like spirited players. I always say you can get after someone if you need to, but do it under control. And the only time I have a problem with Marty is when he loses a little bit of control, because then he hurts the team.
We always chirp at Marty. I mean, he's like you say, he's a loose cannon. You keep yapping at him, he's going to go nuts and do something stupid. That's his game. But it's so easy to get him out of his game. He's a target.
It's just something I bring to the rink. I think it's my level of play. It's how I get up for a game, is to be there. And I think that just because I'm a goalie, it draws a lot more attention to my play.
A calmer, more gentler O'Neill could vault the Blazers back into playoff contention. And don't forget, the bottom line is defense. And the Blazers lead the Mill with the fewest goals allowed per game at 11.4. The Celtics and Bruins were not the only ones to say goodbye to the historical Boston Garden. As the Blazers will miss the small configuration of their former field, they also welcome the new Fleet Center as their new home. As you can see behind me, the Boston Blazers and the New York Saints. The Blazers looking pretty good today. Add to that Peter Schmitz, and he, of course, was injured last season. They're going to be pretty tough, I think, in '96. Still to come, Leaf is going to take a look at the New York Saints. The Saints have a new look, a new coach, and a new attitude.
Vinny Pfeiffer has brought a new enthusiasm to the New York Saints. We're all excited playing for Vinny. We have the talent. And it's just a matter of us going out there and getting it done now. He's got a great strategy for us. We're all working hard in practices and in the scrimmages, and I think if all goes well for us, that you're going to see us right in the playoffs at the end of the year.
You're looking at the championship banner of the New York Saints. 1988 was the last time they've won all the hardware, and 2-6 seasons. Back-to-back losing seasons have really put them in a shape to move things around, shake up the roster, do something dramatic to get back in the championship hunt. How have they done it? Well, they started at the top. They replaced their head coach and took on Vinny Pfeiffer.
Vinny's been in the MILL for the last, he's been a former goalie in the league, and he knows what it takes to win in the league, and he's just a very enthusiastic guy. He's a great leader, and I think that he's really changed the attitude of our team, especially from last year. Last year was the first year that I had played in the league, and our team had gone through a lot of troubles, guys complaining to each other, people getting mad at the coaches and one another, and Vinny's not going to let that happen this year. He's just a leader, and we all respect Vinny.
It's exciting because I played with most of these people, and this is now the 10th year of the MILL, and I've been with it since its infancy. So anytime you can see something go full circle, you're very proud of it.
The Saints cleaned house during the offseason. Gone is Steve Kisslinger, Andy Towers, Andy Krause, and Pat O'Toole. New York was last in virtually every offensive category in '95 and didn't have a single score in the league's top 15. The Saints were last in goals, averaging only 10.4 per game, 4 less than the leading Wings, and were last in shooting percentage with a meager 67.3. Coach Pfeiffer doesn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure the Saints need more scoring.
What we attempted to do was to approach it with a strategic plan where we could categorically upgrade. For example, maybe a higher percentage of high percentage shots. So shot selection was an issue. You can't be deceived by a 2-6 record and say this team was a group of losers. In fact, the margin that we talk about is a 1-goal difference. Should we improve the categories that we highlighted, we'll probably be winning games by 1 goal and could easily be a 6-2 or better team.
2 players have returned from retirement and should help the Saints score more. Vinny Sombrado and Don Borges return with experience that should help a young Saints team, led by last year's Rookie of the Year, Charlie Lockwood. Charlie, who played at Syracuse University and for the '94 U.S. World Team, scored 12 goals in '95 and is looking forward to teaming up with former alums, rookies Chad Smith and Rick Beardsley. The Saints have a good shot of having back-to-back Rookies of the Year with this year's #1 overall draft pick, Brian Picola. Now, Picola is Hopkins' second all-time leading scorer, and he brings much-needed toughness and that potent right-hand shot. The question, as is with many rookies, is how well will Picola make the transition from the outdoor collegiate game into the brutally demanding indoor play of the Mill?
You know, he was 1 or 2 all-time Hopkins leading scorers, so he knows how to put the ball in the net, and I think we're going to need big things out of him. You know, he's a really talented shooter.
He's very, very used to 2 and 3 people whacking him as he tries to execute a feed or a shot. So we looked at that initially, and that's one of the reasons we made him our #1 draft pick. I think he'll do very well in the MILL.
For years, when people mentioned the Saints, one man came to mind, goalie Sal Locascio. Sal has been the one consistent player in the continually changing Saints. Sal managed to rank second in goalies for saves per game with 37.4 and was third in save percentage with 77.7, despite having a real shaky defense in front of him.
As I think about what happened last year, you know, I put a lot of the blame on myself. You know, I have established a level of play for myself as an indoor goalie, and I don't think I performed to that level last year. So I know personally that I'm back to, and I know New York is back to prove where we belong.
Sal Locascio is the backbone of the New York Saints. Nobody should be so heavily relied upon that should they falter on any given day that the entire organization folds. So what we've tried to do is to take some of that pressure off Sal by a better focus on team defense and the concepts of team defense.
Other players to keep your eye on include Brian O'Keefe. Now, Brian had 10 goals and 5 assists last year, doubling his offensive output of 94. Also, 7-year veteran Gordon Purdy, still one of the fastest players in the Mill, and a guy from down under who still likes to spend a lot of time on the sidelines of a good WWF match. Now, Matt Panetta, another alumni from Hopkins, shows flashes of brilliance, and his leadership will be needed on this young Saints team. The Saints lacked a superstar to carry them offensively, but they're a team built on defense, and they've got one in the goal in Sal Locascio. This is a team that really has an improved mental outlook, a new head coach, and a belief in themselves. Don't forget, a 500 record is all they need to probably slide into that playoff format, and they think they are at least that good. Another team that thinks they have a shot for the playoffs is the Baltimore Thunder. They're going to be out here in a minute taking on a practice schedule. Quint Kesnick will come back and tell you all about the Baltimore Thunder and their playoff hopes.
Skip has been a winner on every level. He's coached that. He coached with the U.S. team in 1994 at the World Games. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He works really hard at trying to build this franchise down in Baltimore up. I know it bothers him that we haven't been the team that he expects. He expects to win a lot of the games he coaches in, and I think the players, it's time for us to get that attitude and start winning some games.
There's the clock. The Wave gets it. They need a score to tie it. Brad Kotz
Coach Beardmore's strategy has worked so far. It's only 10 seconds, though. They need to get a shot. That'll about ice it. They push it back, and that'll about take them out of the game as the Thunder clears the ball and turns away a valiant effort. 2-1 is history.
It's been 8 years since the Baltimore Thunder won a championship in the Major Indoor Lacrosse League. That's the second longest drought in league history, behind Boston, who has never won. Baltimore has a record of 9-23 over the past 4 seasons, and last year all they needed was to win one of their final 3 games to make the playoffs. However, they lost all 3. Including 2 out of 3 to the Wings, who the Thunder have beaten only 3 times in 19 games. Coach Skip Lickfus knows that his team needs to beat their arch rival to get over that psychological hump.
We're still just quite not there in terms of playing with Philadelphia, for example. 2 of those 3 games, of course, were against Philadelphia. I thought we acquitted ourselves well in both of the games. We're just a little bit short.
Baltimore was the most improved team a year ago and had 3 players voted as second-team All-Pros: Tim Horms, Mark Millen, and Bob Martino. Tim Horms surprised everyone by scoring 12 goals, including 4 of the shorthanded variety. Horms was accurate also, finding rope on 35% of his shots. Mark Millen has found a home in the indoor game. The former all-world player of the outdoor game scored 13 goals and added 8 assists. He has deadly breakaway speed and is among the best finishers in the mill. This could be Millen's best year yet.
When I take a shot, I want the ball to go in. Right now, in the past, I haven't really had the tremendous confidence that every time I shoot, I know the ball's going in. I want to learn to do that and putting the ball in the net and hopefully taking it to the next level.
Mark Millen expects a great deal from himself. He's got a great deal of pride and works very hard and really wants to be the person that people look for in those tight situations.
Gritty Bob Martino also scored 13 goals last season. His sheer determination and all-out hustle puts him in the right spot at the right time. 6-year veteran Brian Kronberger also returns. Last year he scored 8 goals and had 10 assists. Crony is one of the fiercest players in the league. The Thunder thought they had their goaltending problem solved last year when they acquired veteran Ted Sawicki. But Ted has retired and is now the goaltender coach for the Buffalo Bandits. You've heard the old saying, one man's misfortune may be another man's fortune? Well, J.J. Pearl can attest to that. Last year he replaced an injured Sawicki and keyed a comeback victory against the Nighthawks. J.J. Pearl enters this year as the favorite to handle goaltending duties, which is no easy task for the Thunder, who have to cut down on the league-leading goals against average of 14.6 per game.
We have to get a lot more physical. When people come down the middle, I think we're way too friendly. We need to let some shots go into these people, and even if it's a little late, we need to do that. Everyone else does it, and you know, we're letting our outside mentality stick with us a little too much.
I think when you're playing defense, you can't just go and hang your hat on playing just man-to-man or playing just a zone defense. I think a lot of times what you have to do is play against the personnel that your team is up against that evening.
Other than Sawicki, the only other key loss is Ron Klausner. He filled the need of a big man. The Thunder are hoping that Dan Radova, a rookie from the University of Maryland, will be able to fill that role and even add a few more goals.
I think he is an outdoor player that just can't wait to get inside. Every time we play, he'll hit you, he'll knock you all around. Even if they stop playing, he's still hitting you, and I think that's what we really need.
Another addition to the Thunder is Steve Kisslinger. Kiss has been labeled as a potential great player for 3 years in New York. After a 1-year hiatus, Butch Marino is back. 2 years ago, he was among the Thunder's top scorers with 12 goals and 7 assists. Former All-Pro with Philadelphia, Rob Sheck returns as well. Sheck has the rare gate-like quality of size and speed. The big question for Sheck is, will he be an explosive offensive force for the Thunder in 1996? Also returning is 8-year vet and lead attacker Tim Welsh, 7-year vet Adam Mueller, and former All-Pro Lindsey Dixon, who had an injury-plagued season a year ago.
It's my responsibility as the head coach to put these guys in a position where they can do their best work for us as a team. I would have to claim that it was my responsibility last year that Lindsey Dixon and Rob Sheck did not play to the levels that they're capable of playing. This has to do with personnel. It has to do with playing them with the proper people. And this year we're going to do our best to put those guys in a position to do what they do best for us.
What are your expectations for this season?
Our expectations are pretty high. We're going to challenge ourselves probably more than we have in the past. We're looking forward to the opportunity to get these guys out there and just compete at the best level we possibly can.
The Thunder had a great draft in 1996, and they've acquired 3 Canadian players, Bob Watson, Chris Gill, and Rob Williams, who really should make an immediate impact. You know, if you're a Baltimore fan, you got to look at a couple key factors. First, goaltending. Will it be Pearl or Watson? Also, the power play. You know, last year, Baltimore was in a lot of close games. Had their power play been a little better, I think they would have won those ball games. So look for Baltimore to finish around 500. If Mark Millen can step up offensively, the Thunder really have a shot for a playoff spot. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Charlotte Cobras, the newest franchise in the Major Indoor Lacrosse League.
Entering into its 10th season, the Major Indoor Lacrosse League has added a new team each year for the past 2 years. Now, last year in '95, it was the Rochester Nighthawks. This year, it's the Charlotte Cobras. Expansion has brought mixed results for teams. Boston only won 1 game in their first year out of the box. Buffalo, on the other hand, took home a championship. And as you know by now, the Rochester Nighthawks, they were just 1 goal away from winning it all in their rookie season. And unlike the Nighthawks, who were able to develop their team via a dispersal draft when the Detroit Turbos disbanded, the Cobras have a roster that includes 18 rookies. So a championship is probably out of the question for the Cobras. But stranger things have happened. The coach will be Joe Seibold, who has 6 seasons of coaching experience at Durham Academy in North Carolina.
I'm very excited about the Cobras' possibilities this year. I think that we have a lot of excellent players, field players for the most part by experience, but a lot of things that we're going to do in the indoor game, I think, we're going to transfer very well. We're going to play tough defense. We're going to win ground balls. We're going to get up and down the floor. It's going to be an exciting brand of lacrosse, I hope, for the fans in Charlotte. And I think as the season goes on, we'll find more and more success as the guys get comfortable on the indoor floor.
The Cobras were slated to have veteran goalie Clayton Henry as their human sacrifice in goal, but he thought better of it and decided to call it quits. So the Cobras sought out veteran goalie Dwight Metke. Dwight was the goalie for the Philadelphia Wings in '90, '92, and '93. As a matter of fact, Dwight anchored the Nets for the Wings championship in 1990. No doubt he'll have to play like he did in his prime for the Cobras to have a fighting chance.
You need a stopper in the back, and you know, clearly we're going to generate offense off of a good defense, and that starts with making saves. Dwight's also going to bring just that Canadian box experience to our team. Being that we have a lot of rookies, we need a guy like Dwight.
He'll give them that solid play in the net. He was a superstar, really, for us, and if he plays anywhere near that level, he'll keep that team in a lot of games. Excellent team player and a great guy, so I think he's just a perfect player to have in a new franchise like that.
Chris Bates, a 5-year veteran of the Mill, leads the championship Wings for Charlotte. A chance for him to shine and provide leadership to the flock of rookies.
He sets the tone in practice. A lot of our guys, I'm not sure yet, know exactly what to expect on game night, but Chris Bates in practice has generated the kind of intensity and enthusiasm that we need.
The Cobras' home will be Independence Arena in Charlotte, which is where we sent our Deuce camera crew to meet many of the new Cobras and get their expectations on the upcoming year.
Looking at our practices thus far, you know, the team's excited, they're working hard. I think we can compete. You know, we have some real good athletes, you know, who basically were new to the game, but I think with good hard work, I think we can do well. You know, it may take a little while only because we don't have a ton of experience, but, you know, I think we're excited and we're really ready to get going.
I'm not worried about falling behind. I'm out here to enjoy myself, and I just think it's a great experience, and it's a great experience for all of us. And we're just going to take one game at a time and not worry about our record right now.
The Bandits up in Buffalo, they won it in their inaugural season, and Rochester was in the league final last year. Realistically, we should be able to do quite well.
I can't wait for our first game in Charlotte at Independence Arena. We're going to call it the Baby Hive, coming at you on March 2nd. Now it's time to get a little more technical and take a look at what makes lacrosse lacrosse in a segment we call Rules and Tools.
Time for Rules and Tools of the Mill, brought to you by Old Spice High Endurance Deodorant and Alcohol-Free Sensitive Aftershave. The substitution in the mill looks chaotic, but it's very orchestrated. If you're going in this direction, there are 2 gates. This becomes the in gate, the other door becomes the out gate. Charlie Lockwood of the Saints comes in. When he's within 1 stick length, he releases 1 player on the other end. Quinn Kesnick comes out. He gets a 10-yard advantage by that 10 yards between the doors. He starts a big offense. It can win the game for you.
Are you ready for some turf burning, high scoring, board slamming, take a punch, lose your lunch, high fiving, hard driving, back slapping? How that happened makes you wonder, goalie crashing, major indoor lacrosse league action. Check out all the action live and in person at a game in a city near you.
All right, that's a real good look at how these teams go into the 96 season. Now let's take a look at how we individually feel about the outcome of this year. Charlotte, we know, will have a little bit of a tough time. There'll be a big learning curve there. They're going to have a great coach and some good talent coming in from the north. Q, what do you predict?
There's a lot of talent across the board. I think Buffalo is a team to beat this year. They got Veltman, Cordingley, and the two best scorers in the league, John Tavares and Ted Dowling, plus a goaltender this year in Pat O'Toole. They're going to be very tough. Watch for New York to improve a bit also. I think Vinny Pfeiffer's done some real nice things there. They're going to take a next step in the right direction.
Well, of course, I have to disagree with you, Quint, as I always do. The Philadelphia Wings are going to three-peat. I really believe that. I think these guys are motivated. They feel like they can do it. Of course, they've got the MVP in Gary Gait. Tommy Marichek wants to step up, wants to contribute a little bit more. Johnny Nostrand's going to do more offense. And then you got all those grinder guys who really get the job done for Philadelphia. Don't rule out Boston, though. The Blazers started off last year really tough, 5-1, got into some problems during the playoffs against Rochester, but I think they've corrected some of those problems. Although they did lose Dowling, I think Charlie Blanchard and Tom Carmine are going to step up, and I think Boston could be in there.
All right, nice try, guys, but you're both wrong because Rochester is going to win it all. Rochester almost wins last year with a hurt Paul Gate. He comes back strong. They have a year under their belt from an expansion experience of last year. They will win the whole thing this year. Also, watch Baltimore just as they develop. They've got a lot of talent down there. They've added some old guys like Marino that can really score. They're a team to watch, but I think Rochester takes it all. You'll find out when we start our season. We start Friday, January 5th. That's our first game, 9:30 Eastern. Join us for Major Indoor Lacrosse.